Hello, random YouTube people. Today, I'm going to show you how to ceiling mount your kayaks to add more storage space to your garage. You're going to want to stick around.
Subscribe.
The kayak hoist system is comprised of only a few parts. There's the mounting bracket for the ceiling, the pulleys, the ropes, the straps, and that's it. Now let me show you the product and how to install it. Today we're going to be talking about the Rad Sports Easy Kayak Hoist. I already have one of these and I love it. Let me show you how it works and how to set it up. Let's go ahead and open the box. Alright, so inside the box we have all of the stuff that we need. We have the instructions, of course. Then we have the different components. We have these brackets. There's two of them. This is the one that has the tension, so when you pull up the kayak, it's going to tension itself and shut off, and so it won't drop. And then you have to pull with force to open this up and unlock this, and then you can drop the kayak off the hoist. Here's the rope for everything. Here are the connections. You can hook things to these hooks, or you can use what's in here, which are these straps. These straps go around the kayak, and you can hang it on to the straps, so the straps can go all the way around the kayak and pull it up. Otherwise, you can hang things like bicycles and other things just with the hooks themselves.
Here's the other pulley.
Inside the mounting bracket that I was just showing you was the other piece I was looking for. It's just slid right in here. So this piece actually mounts to the ceiling. If you were mounting directly onto a stud, let's say the stud is like this, you would mount right up underneath the stud. If you have to mount this way, you can't mount onto any studs, so you have to hang different pieces of wood on the other side, so you can drill the wood into separate studs and then drill this into the piece of wood. And I'll show you what that means in a second. And of course, this is all the hardware. And this is the mounting bracket where you can, once you're done hanging your kayak, you can swivel this around like so to bundle away the extra rope that you don't need. All right, let's get hanging. You can see on the kayak that I already have hanging up on the wall, it has these straps that go around the kayak, and the straps hang onto those hooks. There's a piece of rope that connects both of these things together, and then the big rope will have to run separately, and that's what pulls up the kayak and drops the kayak as well. And you can see that little tension hook that I was just talking about. When you pull down on that, it will release the rope. But it's kind of spring-loaded, or gravity-fed, if you will, to pop up when tension is released off the line. So in my case with the kayak, you have to consider where you want the straps to be. You don't want the straps to be at the very end of the kayak. You want it to sit somewhere in the middle of the kayak like this. So what I did is I measured 30 inches from the edge of this hanger right here, and I came out, and that's where I drilled my first hole. And you can see I've drilled into a stud. That little tape with all the screws for the drywall is where a stud is. I drilled right into the studs 30 inches away from the garage door, which gives me 30 inches from the front of the kayak. And then I measured about 67 inches from the first hole on the right to the last hole. That was about 67 inches. And that gives me about 30 inches on both sides of this kayak. So you can kind of adjust the different widths depending on what you're trying to hang, but that's what I did in my case here. Sweet. So for that first bracket that mounts to the ceiling, we have a couple of bolts. They will go in these holes at the top, and this is what goes into your stud or your supporting wood piece. Let me show you what I did for a different one that I had. So when I had this kayak hanging in a different part of the garage, I did this. So what I did is, these are 16 inches apart. That's how far apart most joists are. So I had 3 screws on each side going into the joist. And then I drilled 2 screws for the mounting bracket that hung from the ceiling like this. So if you don't have a situation like I do where you can drill straight into the joist itself and it's on the correct angle, then you can do this. Grab a piece of wood, drill the wood into the joists, and then you can drill your brackets into the wood. So what we're going to do first is go to the ceiling and find the hole we want and drill a pilot hole. And then we're going to run in this screw, or this bolt. This bolt is about 11 millimeters. You can see I have it on a socket. I don't have a drill that has 11 millimeter socket in there, or I would love to use a drill. But in this case, I'm going to sit with my socket and just sit and wrench it tight once it's up in the ceiling. So let's go measure our first 30 inches away from the garage, which is what I wanted to do. Then we'll drill our pilot hole and start running our bolts. So this is the joist that I want to mount my brackets to. And what I did with the other kayak behind me is took a 30-inch mark from the edge of this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and measure about 30 inches away. And this is going to be my first outermost hole. And I'm just marking in the vicinity of where 30 inches is. Okay, that's all I need to do. What I'm going to do now is make sure that this is in fact a joist and there's something there. So I'm taking my stud finder and just going over it. And yes, indeed, you probably can't hear that or see that red line, but there is a stud here, or a joist here in this case. So I want to mark the outside edges of the joist, just so that I know kind of in the vicinity of where it's at. I'm going to do that over here by my actual 30-inch mark. So here's the outermost side on one part, right there. And the outermost point on this side, about right here. So I know I'm drilling dead center. So I was pretty good on my drawing on the first plate. So what I'm gonna do is take a screwdriver with a small drill bit in it, not too big because you don't want it to go too big and the threads of the new bolt not be able to twist in. But I'm gonna do a little pilot hole. All right, so first pilot hole. So this is going right into a stud or a joist. And I was definitely feeling some resistance, so I know that I am going into a stud. Alrighty, so I'm taking that bracket, I'm going to take the bolt, and I'm just going to start going in by hand. Let's just start the hole here, make sure we can twist in fine. Then we're going to hold up that mounting bracket and make sure that the socket is in a way that when I go to the right, it tightens. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Alright. Now that the bolt's in, I'm going to use my pencil and draw a circle in that other hole. And I'm just going to use my eyeballs to check to see if it's straight. I'm going to go based off of the screws that I see in this joist here to try to determine my path of straightness. And that looks pretty good to me. I'm going to draw a circle. And then I'm going to go back with my stud finder and make sure that that circle I just drew is in the center of the stud. Okay. Right there. Oh, it's about on the edge. Let's see. So we're not in the center of the stud. But yeah, I'm going to move my circle over a little bit because I'm not directly in the center of this stud. And if I'm center in the stud, then I would know that I'm mounting the brackets square and center too. I'm going to drill my hole a little bit to the right of that circle I just drew, where we'd be more in the center of the stud here. All right, here we go. Yeah, definitely hitting the stud there. All right, so we can spin this bracket around and start spinning on the second bolt. Now this is the longest part. It's these 4 screws or bolts going into the ceiling. Gotta take a break. Uses muscles I don't use very often. Let's be honest, I don't have much muscles to begin with. Note to self, get a socket with hex adapters for my impact driver. Now, earlier on my other bracket, I was tightening too tight and it busted the bolt. So make sure you don't go too tight.
That's what she said.
You of course want the bracket to be nice and firm and not wiggle, but you don't want to go too tight and pop the head off of your bolt. All right, that is nice and tight. Okay, so from here, I'm just going to measure 67 inches from this bolt to the other edge. So I'm going to take my tape measure and measure that 67-ish inches away from that hole. Alrighty. And now I'm going to do my checking the joist to make sure that it's in the center of the stud here. Drilling my first pilot hole for this bracket. Remember, this is the outermost bracket. There's a stud, I feel it. Just starting my hole a little bit here. I'm running it through. Now with these brackets, it doesn't matter which hole it goes in. They're both the exact same width away from each other. So it does not matter, just pick one. And my second screw, this is my last bolt that I'll have to hang onto the ceiling like this.
And there we are, both mounting brackets mounted.
All right, I'm going to attempt to explain how the ropes go. All right, so this rope is one big continuous rope. So I'm just going to take and find one of the ends. I'm going to run it up through the hole here. And we're going to tie a knot basically on this side. That's all you need to do. You might want to do a double knot there, but you can see it's going to hold pretty good just on that one knot there. So just for fun, I'm going to make this a double knot here. All right. So that comes through here. Now we need to find the other end of the rope. There we are. There's the other end. So this goes down through the pulley here and back up. And then it goes through this pulley. There's only one on this one, so you don't have to worry about it. It just goes through the top side here. And I'm just going to run that cord all the way through both of these pulleys here until all the slack is gone. All right, so you can see here's our little pulley system right there. Okay, so finding the other end again. Okay, so this one, we're not going to worry about this pulley yet. This one is going to come from over here to the top of this pulley right here. Okay, and then it's going to go down behind this one and then down through the first hole over here on the same side as the pulley that the rope's on. Does not want to stuff through the hole.
That's what she said.
All right, and again, pulling it all the way through. Here we are. So this is the space between the pulleys here. And now we're gonna find that other end again and run it back up through this hole and through this pulley. Here we are. And so then back up through this hole. And then behind this one as well. We don't want to go in front. This little locking mechanism is what locks it somehow. It's really kind of cool. So when there's tension on this line, it should pull on that. Like that, see? It like, when I'm pulling tension, it's locking that thing. Okay, there we go. All right, so we're gonna go underneath this. And then this is going to go out through this pulley right there. You can see it's coming through the other side. Now that it's coming through that hole, I'm not going to pull it all the way through. Now that the top part's coming through that hole, it's going to go through this pulley. Make sure that it's facing right. The hook's going towards the other hook like this. Go down and then back up and tie over to here just like we did on the other side. So you can see, if I pull just one of them, it just pulls one of the hooks up. If I pull the other one, it pulls that hook up or down. So if I pull on the front one, it's going to pull this one up and down. If I pull on the other one, it's going to pull that one up and down. But if I pull on them together, it pulls both of them up and down at the same time. See? All right, and then you can see when I'm putting tension on it, it's locking this thing. So what we're going to do is install this one first, and just kind of let the rope out a little bit. Install this one first, and then this one last. And all we're going to do to install it is we're going to hang this up to the bracket we hung on the wall. It's going to go on the outside of the bracket, and we just run these bolts through, and it's going to go through this one and the other bracket that's on the ceiling. And then you put the nut in on the other side. Let's do it. So I forgot to mention, I will be using some wrenches, and I have a ratchet wrench and then just a regular wrench, and these are 11/16. That's what size we need for these bolts. So we've got my two wrenches, a racket wrench and a regular wrench, 11/16. We're just gonna run that first bolt to the outside hole, and you're gonna wanna make sure when you're doing this, that the pulley side is facing the other bracket. We don't want to do it this way. We want to do it this way, where the last knot goes to the outside, so it can pull up and down like so. Okay? All right. First bolt through the hole. And I'm going to take my other bolt, go through the other hole. All right, so then we have 2 nuts for these bolts. All right, so now comes our wrenches. So I'm going to make sure that my racket wrench is in the right direction, that it's going to be tightening it. So righty-tighty. And then I'm just going to hold the other side with the other. Now when you're tightening this down, it's going to squeeze. You don't want to tighten it too much, or it's going to start to bend the upper bracket. So you just want to make sure that it's nice and strong, and you'll know. You'll be able to feel it. So here we go. All right. I'm just holding some of my weight. If I could pull myself up, it's really secure in there. All right, on to the next one. Gotta move my ladder.
This is ironically the same ladder that I had just fallen off of and torn my ACL a couple weeks ago. I am scheduled for surgery, but needed to get these things hung.
So I'm up here on the ladder with a torn ACL right now. So just be careful, guys. Let my mistakes not be yours. And so on this one, you make sure the pulley is on the outside, and then on the other side, you make sure the pulley is on the inside. Make sense?
So now I'm just pulling the kayak over into place.
So you can see when I pull this left side, it's raising the other side. And as I pull the right side, it pulls up the side closest to me. Make sure they're about the same height-ish. You see that cool little tension thing? When you let go, it just holds the tension. Now we get our 2 straps, one for each side. Make sure these little loops that you can see are on the outside, so the smooth, flat side is touching the bottom of your kayak, like this. Make sure I lift it up. I'll get it under there a good distance. Do the other side. Okay, so you're going to take your hook and make sure that everything is lined up right. Take one of your hooks and run it through a loop on the other side. And so I'm going to start with the loops in the middle, and I want to come down until it's pretty flat on the kayak. That'll make sure it hangs as high to the ceiling as possible. Okay, so that was 2 loops in, or on the third, counting the outside. 2, 1, 2. So this is number 3. And I'm not going to be able to go any further than that. And match the same loops on the other side. I put the camera on this angle so you can see this little bracket here with the tensioning. So I'm going to pull each until they're each side until the other side is pretty tight, and then grabbing both, you just pull at the same time, and up she goes. I'm gonna go on this side because my hook's gonna be on the wall. Now my outside, my back one's not as even, so I'm gonna pull that one until it's tight, and then pull this one until it's tight, and then let go. That's it. That's all we need to do. Well, actually, the last thing we need to do is mount the tying mount on the side. There's a stud here, which is closest to the angle of the rope. And I'm going to do it high so it's out of the way, but enough that I can reach it still. And here's the bracket. It'll sit on the wall like this. So mounting that. There we go. So now we just tie that extra rope around it. Just like that.
And now both kayaks are ceiling mounted and out of the way. Now to back the truck in just to make sure that everything's good. Recorded this footage earlier showing that the truck is going to not hit the kayak when I drive underneath it. Not that I expect anything to be different, but you can see as I'm backing up with both kayaks hung on the ceiling They are out of the way and they are clearing the truck, and so we have no problems.
And the truck has plenty of room. Don't have to worry about that one backing it up unless I get some huge lift on it.
And that's all she wrote, folks. Thank you so much for watching. If you found any part of this video helpful, please give this video a thumbs up, share it with all of your friends, give me a comment, and be sure to
Subscribe.
subscribe.
If you want to watch more of my videos, just search for my name. DIY BRY. Yeah!